Good evening, guys. This is the assignments for Monday, April 27th. First of all, before I give those assignments, I want to make sure that I review last week's assignments before we move on. Hope everybody's had a good week. I enjoy reading the assignments. Really, a lot of thought, hard work, and then putting the assignments. They're really, really better than I expected. More people turning in assignments than I expected to. So keep up the good work. For review of last week, my first assignment was the 6 goals of the preamble, to explain those 6 goals in your own words. And I'm just going to review what you probably should have had or close to it. And the 6 goals of the preamble, the first preamble was to form a more perfect union, which the writers felt that they wanted a better government than the Articles of Confederation. Number two, to establish justice. They wanted to make sure that this new government gave people um, equal rights, as far as they could tell at that time, but give them some sense of people following laws, and if people broke laws, there would be justice for people as well. Number three, third goal was to ensure domestic tranquility. They wanted peace within the colonies, the new states, not fighting among the states, not fighting between the government and the people, but being very tranquil, which meant getting along peacefully. The fourth goal was to provide for the common defense. They wanted to make sure that the government or the states would take care of them and defend them if ever time came upon them where they had to fight a war again. Number five goal was to promote the general welfare. They wanted to make sure that certain services were given to the people of the states that they felt should be given to the people to have a better life. And the sixth goal was to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Meant that they wanted these goals to be put in place, and not only for the people at the time, but for future generations, that they also had the liberties, the rights, forever and ever and ever, as long as they could see. The second assignment was list the 7 branches, or the the 7 articles of the Constitution, and everybody had those right. First article was legislative branch. Second article was executive branch. The third article was the judicial branch. And these articles were meant to explain to the people how each branch was going to be set up, all the rules that each branch had to follow. The fourth article dealt with relations among states, how states were going to get along with each other. The states had to protect each other, give the same rights to each state. For people that when they moved from state to state, they would adhere to the same rights as the people who would live there and call themselves a citizen of the state. It also talked about how states would become process of becoming a state, admitting in a state, and how the national government will protect those states. The fifth article dealt with the amending process, how the amendments would be added to the Constitution and how the procedure would go. The sixth article would talk about how the Constitution is the federal law and is the supreme law of the land. And the seventh article dealt with the ratification of the Constitution, how many states it would take to become um, uh, the Constitution, as far as having it be the process of where it could start. Needed 9 out of 13, and then it would go from there. The third assignment was I wanted you to list all the rights in each of the 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments out of the 27 amendments that are now in the Constitution. And amendment number one, everybody had those rights, correct: religion, speech, assembly, petition, and press. Amendment number two was you have the right to bear arms. Number three, you have the right to not quarter soldiers in your home. Number four dealt with searches and seizures, that there had to be proper probable cause, or had to have a search warrant to search you, your home, vehicle, or anything you own. Amendment number five had to do with Amendment number 5 and 6 in particular had to do with crimes, person being accused of a crime, and trials. And there were a lot of rights that you have as a citizen in Amendment number 5. Some students had some of them, but not all of them. And there are many in Amendment number 5. The first one is that if you're charged with a felony, You have the right to be indicted. You also have the right to no double jeopardy. They can't charge you again with the crime if they found you not guilty the first time. You can't be tried again for the same crime, basically. You're also able to plead the Fifth Amendment in court, raise your right hand, and not testify against yourself. And you also, in the Fifth Amendment, you have the right to just compensation if the government takes your property. In Amendment number 6, you have many rights. When it comes to a trial, you have a right to a speedy trial, a public trial. You have the right to an impartial jury in the state and the district you come from. You also have to be informed of the nature of your offense. You have the right to a lawyer. You have a right to be confronted with witnesses against you. And before a judge or jury can render a verdict, they have to hear witnesses and evidence on both sides. So a lot of rights if you go to trial in Amendment number 5 and 6. Amendment number 7. If your case in court is $20 or more valued, you have a right to a jury or a judge. Up until $20, whatever the court decides, whether it's presumably a judge, you have to stay with the judge as the person who will render the verdict. But if it's over $20 in value, you have the right to a jury trial if you want. Number 8, you have 3 rights in Amendment number 8. You have no excessive bail, no excessive fines, and no cruel and unusual punishment. Amendment number 9 and number 10 don't specifically talk about rights to a trial or so forth. Amendment number 9 basically says there are more rights than they're located in the Constitution, which I think the writers of the Constitution made sure that they knew if this government would stay together, that somebody would come up with something where the right was written down. So this made sure that people still had rights, but that just because they weren't listed in the Constitution doesn't mean you couldn't have that right. And number 10 protects the people from the federal government. Powers not given to the federal government are reserved for the states. So again, most everybody did a really good job in putting all the rights down. The Amendment number 5 and number 6, I think a lot of you just put 1 or 2 rights down in that, but everybody got the gist of the assignment. Okay? Now, getting the assignment for next week, they're all along at the Constitution again. Well, here's what I want you to do. And you can put all these 3 assignments on one page. So on Power School Learning, I'm going to put all 3 assignments on one page and just still give you 10 points for all 3 assignments together. Just easier for me to look at and correct if they're all one together. And the first assignment for next week has to do with the 2 of the most important terms that came out of the Constitution as they put it together, was the term called checks and balances and electoral college. Well, here's what I want you to do with those terms. I want you to define what the electoral college meant and what the checks and balances term, what do they mean? Define those 2. But then I also want you to give me a couple examples. An example I want you to give me with the checks and balances is this. Give me an example of last couple weeks in government, our U.S. government, where checks and balances have been used. It could be with the Congress and the President. Supreme Court's been pretty quiet this week. But it's probably going to have to be something with the executive branch, legislative branch together. So give me an example of something to do with checks and balances. With the Electoral College, I want you to define that for me, but I also want you to do one other thing with Electoral College. Go back to the election of 2016 and tell me who won the popular vote, Clinton or Trump, and then obviously Trump won the Electoral College, but tell me who won the popular vote out of those 2. Was it Mrs. Clinton or was it Mr. Trump? The second assignment I want you to do for next week is take a look at one of the 5 rights in the First Amendment, and I want you to, in 6 sentences, tell me which one you think is the most important out of those 5 rights in the First Amendment. Number 3 is also an opinion question, and it specifically deals with one of the rights in the First Amendment with the freedom of assembly. And here's what I want you to think about this and write a paragraph on this. This week we've seen on the news where in different states people have gathered against governor's orders in groups of 10 or more and protested the stay-at-home orders in some states, specifically Michigan. I saw Missouri, Minnesota, Utah, where groups of more than 10 have assembled. I even saw some women in Utah being arrested because of orders not to assemble on a playground. Do you think, my question is for you for the assignment is, do you think that the states are violating your right to freedom of assembly when they tell you you can't be on a playground, or when you're in groups of more than 10? Is that in violation of your First Amendment right to assemble? Again, 6 sentences for that. I'll also put these 3 assignments on Power School Learning with this video. I'll try to attach it to the PSL this week instead of giving you a homework assignment on your class. So hope everybody's doing well, and anybody has any questions throughout the weekend, either assignments, please email me, and I don't think there's anything else. Watch the Jordan special tonight. Adios.